morning, and welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Nashville online worship. My name is Jaie Tiefenbrunn, and I am very pleased to be your director of music ministries. Our collaborative pianist this morning is Holling Smith-Borne, and he'll be joining us for the musical affirmation and other pieces following that. Our worship materials are on our website, firstuunash.org, and you can find information about and the order of service on the With You Worship portal. If you're joining us live, you'll find buttons and chat on your screen, either to the right or to the bottom. Welcome. We're very sad to have had to cancel our annual Passover Seder. However, as Passover begins Wednesday evening, we would like to open our service with the traditional Passover song, Dayenu, It Would Have Been Enough. We'd like to invite you to join in the playful spirit of our April theme and dance around your home. Will you join me in singing Dayenu? Had he led us out of Egypt? Had he led us out of Egypt, only led us out of Egypt? Had he led us out of Egypt? Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Had he given us the Sabbath? Had he given us the Sabbath, only given us the Sabbath? Had he given us the Sabbath? Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Had he given us the Torah? Had he given us the Torah? Only given us the Torah? Only given us the Torah? Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Good morning. I'd like to invite you to take a deep breath and center into your heart space and connect to all those worshiping with us online this morning.
I invite you to join your hearts and minds in the spirit of worship. I invite you to come with me to the land of the Passover Seder, a story we tell with food and songs annually at our Passover Seder dinner. That dinner, like so many meaningful gatherings we look forward to, has been canceled as one way we can be part of the physically distancing during this pandemic. These are unprecedented times. We're having to learn to live in new ways. We are making it up as we go along. This is challenging for us to do. And that is why our ancestors told stories to their children about challenging times, times of oppression and slavery, plagues and persistence, bravery and freedom. The Passover Seder invites us to tell that story with creativity and playfulness. The Passover Seder does that because our wise ancestors understood that we all learn how to confront the problems of the human condition head on through story and play. Join us this morning. Wednesday night at sunset, the Passover season begins. It's a season to tell a story about a time once upon a time, a long time ago, when the Jewish people were enslaved in Egypt, and they suffered. They suffered under the yoke of slavery. It was a heavy yoke. And some of their leaders, Moses and Aaron, started going to the Pharaoh and saying, "Let my people go." And Pharaoh over and over again said yes and then no, yes and no. We never let them go. At the same time this was happening, as we remember the suffering of the Jewish people in slavery, there were many plagues. Now, we all know what a plague is now, don't we? It's like the pandemic we have right now. And those plagues caused everyone to suffer. The Egyptians suffered as well as the Jewish people, and it is important that we remember, even in our own suffering, the suffering of others, even in our own celebration, that we now are free, the suffering of others. So let me tell you about the plagues. The first plague was blood. The blood was in the river Nile, and there was nothing for anyone to drink. It was yucky. I don't want to drink blood. Yuck. Maybe we should dig a well. As soon as the blood started to flow away and we were getting water from the well, a new plague came up out of the river. Hundreds of frogs. Well, frogs aren't so bad, but then thousands of frogs came up out of the river. And then millions of frogs. They covered the land. They covered the floor in the house. They covered the bathtub. They filled up the oven and the mixing bowls. Yuck! Everywhere you walk, crunch. Poor frogs died. Ooh, they smelled when they died. Let's chase them back to the river. Whew. But then we started to itch. That next plague was lice. Have you ever had lice? We started to itch and itch. Look at the poor guy. Can't stand. Oh, and my dog and my cat, they are itching too. Oh, we have to start picking them off. Isn't there a shampoo we could wash them off? Oh, as soon as all the lice were gone and I stopped itching, something very strange happened. The wild animals who never came to town, like the tiger, started running through town, but they were going spinning around and around because they were covered in flies. And the flies were making them not think. They just were crazy. Oh my gosh, it was so scary to have tigers and bears and lions running through the streets. I hid under my bed until it all went away. When I came out, I noticed my cow, look at, sick, very sick. And so I took my cow to the veterinarian and everybody was there. They had brought their sheep and their pigs and their horses and their goats, all the animals. Oh, they're so sick. And we all helped the veterinarian take care of them till they all started to get a little better. But as they were getting better from that sickness, we noticed that they had these awful boils, these sores on their body. And then we realized we had them too. Oh no, we have sores. Ooh, they're kind of gross. We need to wash them off. Oh, look, I have a Band-Aid. We could put a Band-Aid on them. Oh, but they really hurt. And wow, the sores were starting to get better. And I went out to plant a garden because it was the time of year. And just as I started to get it planted, there was a big hailstorm and thunder and lightning. And the hail was so big it battered up everything I was planting, those little baby radishes. Oh, they were all destroyed. So I ran inside until it went away. And the storm passed. Everywhere there were destroyed gardens. I don't know what we're going to eat this year. And then a plague of locusts came flying. Again, it was like the frogs, not just 100, not just 1,000, millions and millions, and they filled the sky, and they covered the land and the trees. And by the time they were gone, there was nothing left, not a green leaf anywhere. Oh, we were going to be hungry this year. Now, I was pretty exhausted after all this, so I almost didn't mind when the next morning the sun did not come up. It was a plague of darkness, but it was so dark that I couldn't see anything, not even the people in my house a foot away. And so we all just sat there in our chairs, didn't move for 3 days and 3 nights. And as the sun finally came out, we heard a rumor about another plague. We heard that the oldest in each family was getting very ill, deathly ill. Well, there was no way we were going to wait for the Pharaoh to tell us that we could go. We all, in the middle of the night, packed up and ran away together so that we could be free and the angel of death would pass over our families. We celebrate that we went to freedom, and we are in sorrow for all the suffering that led up to that celebration. Now, today I want you to think about, although we are free, there are still plagues. There are many plagues that today are causing suffering. So, if you have the chat line, if it's live today and there's a chat, I want you to use that chat to put in the plagues of today. I'm sure you can think of plagues beyond that coronavirus that is a plague all over the world. I will read those plagues. I'm sure there'll be at least 10 during the sermon. May it be so.
Good morning. My name is Denise Gyauch. I am your Assistant Minister for Congregational Engagement, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to worship. I'm going to repeat that if you are watching on Webinar Jam as we progress through the service, you will see blue buttons for our With You Worship portal, for the offering, and for joys and concerns. If you are watching the service recording on YouTube, you will find our With You Worship portal on our website at firstuunash.org. In either place, when you click the With You Worship portal button, you will find an order of service, copies of the hymns, information about making an offering, and the submission form for joys and concerns. Ordinarily, joys and concerns are not live streamed, but while we are gathering online, we will share joys and concerns if those who have sent them give permission on that form. Joys and concerns submitted after the middle of the live streamed service will be shared with permission during next Sunday's service, and all entries will be shared as usual with our lay ministers. As Unitarian Universalists, our spiritual paths vary, but in this congregation, we have made a covenant together. We affirm our interdependence, celebrate our differences, and work for justice. We are a welcoming congregation, and we deepen our relationships as we serve our congregation's mission to create community, nurture spiritual growth, and act on our values in the broader world, guided by reason and compassion. I want to extend a special welcome to you if you are a visitor worshiping with us this morning. If you are seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you may find it here. All are welcome to attend our services, and people become members of this congregation by signing the membership book and supporting the church with their time and finances. If you are considering joining the church, please contact me, your assistant minister. My email address can be found in the staff directory under Contact Us on our website. Following the service, we hope everyone will enjoy at least one of our online opportunities for fellowship. You are especially welcome immediately after the live stream or anytime throughout the week to fix the beverage of your choice and join our virtual coffee hour on Facebook. There are many announcements posted on our website, which I hope you will read, and I have been asked to highlight these. There is news from the annual stewardship drive. The stewardship committee reports that they have not heard from about 1/3 of our members. If you have not yet pledged, please complete an online pledge form or send an email to stewardship@thefund.org. Even if you will not be able to pledge, it is important that you let us know. Thank you so much for your support. Both Gail and I are currently offering an open office hour on Zoom during the week. You can drop in to visit with Gail on Wednesdays beginning at noon or with me on Thursdays starting at 5 p.m. Find more information on our website or our Facebook page. And finally, our WebEx coffee hour has moved to noon today, April 5th. See firstuunash.org for details to join. Thank you. So for the moment, while we are online, we have no ushers passing offering bowls, but we are so very grateful for your continued generosity, which allows the congregation to continue serving our mission through this difficult time. You may know that we share part of every Sunday's collection with an organization whose work outside our walls is in alignment with our values. For April, our Share the Plate partner is NOAH, Nashville Organizing for Action and Hope. As a member congregation of NOAH, our annual budget includes part of our organizational dues, but the balance of our dues is raised through Share the Plate. Currently, NOAH, like many of its member organizations, is learning to take its work online. NOAH is currently running a campaign to encourage participation in the national census, which is so important to make sure that the real diversity of our communities is recognized, that communities of all kinds are fairly represented in our legislatures, and that local governments have much needed access to federal funds. If you are watching on Webinar Jam, you can use the offering button to go to our website donation page. If you are watching on YouTube, you can access that form either from the homepage of our website or via the offering section of the WithYouWorship portal. If you would like to mail a check to the church, please write in the memo line how you would like your donation to be used. If you write Sunday offering, it will be shared between the church and NOAH. If you want it to be credited to your pledge, please write pledge. As always, your generosity, like your many-layered connections to us as a congregation, is received with deep, deep gratitude. One of the ways that we celebrate and strengthen the connections among us is in the communal sharing of our individual joys and sorrows during Sunday service. So I invite you now to take a deep breath. Settle yourself wherever and whenever you are. Be aware of the ways that you are connected to us, to everything across both time and space, and become aware also of yourself, precious and beloved. And become aware, be willing to sit for a moment with the joys, the sorrows, the worries and the concerns that you have brought to this moment from the minutes, hours, and days that have preceded it. Now we're going to have a musical interlude so that you can, if you wish to share a profound joy or concern that has struck your spirit to the core, you can go and find that online Joys and Concerns form and fill it out. Send it to me, and I will read those after we hear this music. Let us now enter into a time of silence together, a time of considering where we are, who we are, and of listening to this music. So we have several joys and concerns being shared this morning. Evelyn Cotton has shared a joy. She says, I like spending more family time. And Stormy Speaks shares a joy. Despite the fear and uncertainty of life during COVID-19, I'm thankful to be with my mom in Mississippi while working and worshiping remotely. David Dickinson shares both a joy and a concern. He says, my daughter is due to have a baby in the next week or so. She lives in Brooklyn and will deliver at home. I hope all goes well, and we do too. Deborah has posted in the chat box, I'm happy for Wi-Fi at our little rental place in Mexico, keeping us in touch, and so much more. Julie Grower has shared a concern for the children I serve at MMPS who are not getting the services they so need. I pray for their families to weather this time safely. And we do as well. And Sherry DiGiovanna has shared a concern. She's hoping for healing for my son in Sweden who has COVID-19 symptoms. And we hope for healing for him and for everyone who needs it. Holding these joys, these concerns, these hopes and prayers, as well as all of those that lie in our hearts as yet unspoken, let us join together in a spirit of prayer. Spirit of life and love, we are grateful for this time to gather together, to be connected by the wonders of technology that we may or may not have appreciated fully before this time. But it is a wondrous thing to be able to share them, to reach out to each other. And we also use these technologies to reach out, to know what is happening in the world beyond our community. And we are aware, both within and without of our community, of so much joy right now, the beauty of spring, the chatter of the birds, the growing things, and also the fear, the worry, the extra work that comes with more danger than usual for so many among us, the grief, the disappointments and unhappinesses, both our regular everyday unhappiness and also those concerns that come with living in a time of pandemic. The needs that are easily met in other days that are hard now to meet, the vulnerabilities that are here among us and among our siblings around the world that are always present. Those vulnerabilities are so much more acute in these days, and we ache for our inability to address those sometimes. And we hold each other and all to which we are connected. That is all of existence, in love and hope and faith. And in the acceptance that whatever comes, we are connected to each other, to all that is. May that be a source of strength and courage to us and to everyone. Blessed be, and amen.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Rogers, and I'm so thrilled to be with you today as your worship associate. I'm hoping my audio is working, as I know I had some trouble before. I wanted to let you share with you this morning a reflection around how I realized that I once learned to start to adapt. I was a big reader as a kid. I would often get caught reading under the covers when I was supposed to be sleeping. Books were an escape, a refuge, a place to find freedom and for my imagination to run wild. I often spent non-reading time daydreaming about inserting myself into plot lines, thrilled at the notion of solving big problems or stepping out of my own world into another. When I dig back into my memory and survey my favorite books, a pattern very quickly emerges. I had volume after volume of the Boxcar Children series, the beloved story of a set of siblings who were orphaned and then set up house with each other in a boxcar. At the end of the first book, they begin to live with their grandfather, but the following books in the series always centered around heading into someplace new and setting up house again, gathering provisions and making sure the family had everything they needed to survive from some new location. I also loved the book From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, a story where two siblings run away to live at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Another more obscure favorite was This Place Has No Atmosphere, about a preteen whose family was one of the first to join a colony on the moon. At first glance, the theme of all of these books was escape, but I remember very clearly what truly excited me about these stories. I was so intrigued and excited about the notion of forging out on my own, or rather of landing in a new situation or circumstance and gathering everything I needed to make my way in this new normal in a new world. I found these challenges exciting. And when I put my books down, I kept this process up in my imagination, a place where I was capable, ingenuitive, and independent. As I started to think about this childhood love of mine, of fantasizing about what it would be like to adapt and survive in a new, uncharted world, I realized very quickly that this is actually what I'm doing right now. Over the last weeks, we have all faced a sudden, startling new reality that has brought up insecurity, confusion, and often fear. Out of what to most felt like nowhere, we have been asked to quickly adapt how we live, shop, work, and connect with our communities. Many stocked up on those provisions that they felt were necessary to move through this dangerous environment. New routines were developed. Home offices like this one were set up. Schedules for homeschooling and activities for our kids came to life. People who used to only communicate via text message, though, are starting to jump on video calls, and artists are offering their time and their work to produce virtual concerts and online dance parties. So much of our learning about how to move and adapt during these times happen when we are young and developing our imagination. The stories we read, the games we play, the daydreams we entertain. These are not just for our pleasure. They taught us how to adapt, how to live, how to create, how to problem solve together. So let us now together move into a brief time of meditation, where I'll ask each of you to spend a few moments visualizing with me. Settle a bit into your seats, into your sofas that are likely much more comfortable than the pews I know we're all missing right now. Take a deep breath. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. Think back into your childhood, or if it's easier or more comfortable or more accessible to you, to a time more recent, when you found yourself at play. Are you in a field with an open sense of freedom? Maybe you're nestled in a corner, curled up with a book. Perhaps you've gathered with a group of friends to play hospital or school. Recall the sense of adventure, of fun. What problems were you working to solve? What did the freedom and safety of play allow you to try out and explore? As you recall these memories, if you are so moved, allow the sense of fun and freedom to rise up. It may bring a smile to your lips. Let that come through if so. Allow gratitude for the ability to play and for the lessons learned. Allow gratitude for those who played along. As you come back to the present, bring that spirit of play and learning with you. As we all continue to adapt and learn and grow through these times, let's bring with us a spirit of freedom, play, and the spontaneity that allows them to come forth. May it be so.
I'd like to invite you to sing along while Holling plays the traditional Negro spiritual, Wade in the Water. You're at home, you can sing out, you can make up harmonies, you can improvise words. The lyrics are on our worship portal on our website. Enjoy Let's sing 2 verses together with Holling.
Well, we have been wading in the water, and it is troubled, isn't it? I'd like to read the 10 plagues. I've put some of them together. Thank you, everyone, for participating. First plague are the plagues, not just COVID-19, but Ebola. The second plague, not just the tornado, but all natural disasters. 3, white supremacy. 4, intolerance. 5, divisions. 6, wildfires, pollution, global warming, overpopulation. 7, hunger, poverty, worries about the working poor, the underpaid, the children who are in their homes without needed services and education. Next is selfishness. I guess that's 10. We name these deadly serious plagues that we live with day to day as a call to work together to ease the suffering of them all. At this time, I wanted to ask you if any of you, as we think about these deadly serious things, knew about the controversy we've had the last few years about, during Passover Seder dinners, about how much we can play as we tell the stories of the hard stuff. Most of the leaders grew up with Passover Seders in their households as children. And of course, every household had a different way of celebrating, telling that story. So one year, one of our leaders brought in puppets, finger puppets, and then little plastic toys, and finally these kits to make plague paper bag puppets, because he wanted to play during Passover Seder, as we told the story, which is how he grew up. And some of the other people were just horrified that we would play with such traumatic experiences. But I came down with the puppets. And I'll tell you why. I have watched children play. When my children were growing up, they happened to be both boys. So I didn't generalize that children like to play trouble, but my boys certainly did. Even their fingers, every stick, every finger was a gun, every Lego was part of a mass destruction machine or was destroyed over and over again. It wasn't until I had granddaughters that I realized, oh my gosh, their play's no different. It's just that their stuffed animals were the monsters and their Barbies and Kens got mutilated, kidnapped, terrible diseases, awful accidents. They were often in the emergency room. They often died. They were often reincarnated. Those dolls don't look very good anymore. Children find pleasure in playing with trouble. That's their favorite game. And quite honestly, we adults are no better, because play is a way that children make stories. And as adults, like as Rachel talked about, she grew out of a lot of her playfulness, but she read. And so we still have that same relationship that we had with play, finding pleasure in trouble, with story in its broadest sense. The stories that we read, that we tell each other, that we watch on TV or in movies, that we ritualize in our congregations. So think about these last few weeks. I've been anxious, right? When I've turned on the TV, am I turning on soothing things? Sometimes Queer Eye, oh, that soothes me, makes me cry, always makes me feel good every time. But what was the most popular show on TV a few weeks ago? I was shocked to find out that it was a show that I couldn't bear to watch, actually. It was called, I've got to get this right. It was called the Tiger King, Murder, Mayhem, and Madness. That was the most popular show as people started to become more anxious. We love trouble. We still love, as children and as adults, stories about murder, mayhem, and madness. Now, evolutionary psychologists have asked questions about this because they have noticed that all human children play, but they're not alone. Many mammal children play, and that all human adults love story, that play begins as very simple stories at the age of 1. By the age of 8, children have been working at play, seriously playing. It's both pleasurable and it is their job. And then we continue to find great pleasure in stories, especially stories that are troubling. So there's got to be a reason for that, a psychologist would say. Evolution is pretty basic. There was a reason. Okay. So I started to try to understand this relationship between trouble and pleasure with our stories years ago, decades ago, when I was first learning about the creation of play therapy for children. in which they had troubles, and they would play them out, and the therapist would help set that up for them. That started by some people who were working in a school in Canada. Years ago, in a small town, when most of the children went to the same school and they were in a terrible bus accident, all the children in the school, some died, many of them were injured. And in the years ahead, during playground time, the children played this accident over and over and over again. Now, they didn't play it exactly the way it happened. They changed it. They had many different stories about it. Through that, psychologists have learned to understand, through this field of play therapy, that children heal through play, among other things. But during those years, we've learned more about how the brain, body all works together. We have learned to understand that when we play, when we enact something, even when we think about something, we are actually having the same experience as if we were doing it. They've learned about mirroring neurons, about how we can play a video game that simulates flight to teach somebody to actually fly. That when somebody runs in their dreams, the same muscles in their body have to be disconnected or they actually get up and run. Those are people who are walking in their sleep. We know that through story, we are practicing, experimenting with, trying different ways of being in this world. And there's a lot of evidence now that those people who live in the pleasure of story in all the ways that is available to us are learning very specific things. What are we learning? We're learning most specifically how to be more emotionally, socially, and morally intelligent. We're learning that in very basic physical ways. Neural pathways forming in our brain that widen our options. So here we are in a time in which we are learning to live in a new way. All different ways, but it's different, isn't it, for all of us? Whether we're safer at home and using technology, or we're on the street and have access to nothing. Whether we have lots of children in our home and are trying to find the resources to care and educate them, or we're working 24/7 because we are medical people or public policy people trying to understand how we can keep our population safe. Our habits that get us through the day, the structures we have, our schedules, they're just not the same. This, I argue, is the time for deadly serious playfulness. How else will we create new ways to be together? New ways to be social, even though we're physically distant. New ways to love, support one another. We need to create, laugh, tell each other stories, all these different stories. If you are stressed, Tell someone your story. Take a song and write silly words for it. Take a game you like to play and make up new rules and see if people can play it. Make mistakes and laugh. This is the time to create a new way for all of us to be through story. Remember, our ancestors have taught us over and over again that we can constantly need to pass on the story, the whole story, all of it. It's deadly serious. May it be so.
Our closing song today is When the Spirit Says Do. We're blessed by Unitarian Universalist musicians Sarah Jebian and Laura Weiss, the duo Unfolding, who have granted permission for Unitarian Universalist congregations to use their recordings during online-only worship. Get ready to dance, sing, and play.
You got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you got to do, oh Lord. You got to do when the Spirit says do. 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 You got to sing when that Spirit says sing. Sing when the Spirit says sing. You got to sing when that Spirit says sing. Sing, sing, sing. When the Spirit says sing, you got to sing, oh Lord. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. 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 Spirit says
Thank you.
Please.
Oh, thank you, everyone.
Please join me for the chalice extinguishing. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I'd like to read these closing words by Alla Renee Bozarth. It is part of a reading called Passover Remembered. Do not hesitate to leave your old ways behind, fear, silent submission. Only surrender to the needs of the time, to love justice and walk humbly with your God. Some of you will be so changed by weathers and wanderings that even your closest friends will have to learn your features as though for the first time. Some of you will not change at all, but sing songs as you go and hold close together in ever new and safe ways. You may at times grow confused and lose your way, but to touch each other's hearts and keep telling the stories. Pass on the whole story and do not go back. This service is over. Let our service begin again, renewed.